Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's my new video. I've just learned yesterday that Professor Rosenthal, there was a certain research, so to say, delivered by him on the demand of ChessBase. I mean, they asked this mathematician, statistician, to make a research on Hikaru streaks, and well, it published it a few months ago, I think, a couple of months ago. I immediately very soon recorded my answer, pointing out a lot of mistakes there, very, very obvious mistakes, and we will talk about it today as well. And now I just saw yesterday there was a certain adjustment published in this report, which called, as you see, amendum Kramnik response, so response to me. Well, I actually, to start with, I tried several times publicly and privately sending emails to Chess.com, to the professor, trying to pass the information that there are a lot of mistakes and that I'm ready to discuss it publicly or privately, so please, if you want, contact me back and we will discuss it. I never received any answer from neither Chess.com nor Mr. Rosenthal, and well, that is why well, I have to do it in this way. So then then also what happened that this new addendum was actually published. They didn't even inform me, or well, they could have at least informed me, because it's a response to my criticism, but I was not aware of it. Nobody ever told me this, and I just learned it yesterday by completely accidentally on Twitter. Somebody had published it on Twitter, actually informed me that there was the discussion, so to say, continued, but I was not aware of it. It's a very, very strange behavior, I would say, from the counterpart, but at least now I'm aware of it, and I would like to go through this addendum and answer, well, Mr. Rosenthal, because he is referring to me. He's even kind of talking to me there, but for some reason, well, nobody informed me about it. Yeah, very interesting way of communicating, but in anyways, probably yeah, well, the idea was that I wouldn't be aware of it, which was the case actually, because it was published almost a month ago already. So just accidentally again I've learned about it. So I read it, and of course, well, there are a lot of let's say remarks about this those explanations. So let's go on. First, I would like to also invite you to check my video on this. I will leave it in the comment section. I mean, the video which I recorded already months ago, responding on the first version of this report. So you will, yeah, probably many things will be more clear, because today I want to go through only those questions which were raised in this new addition of this research. So in this particular Kramnik response section. So let's go. So let's see what professor is writing here. After the original version of this report was publicized on Chess.com, former world champion Vladimir Kramnik, the main accuser, posted a lengthy response video and comments. What means the main accuser? I mean, this is very disrespectful. Even it's not, professor, it's not, I was never accusing it, and everybody knows it who would listen to, I was just raising concerns. And to use this word is extremely, actually, disrespectful, because it is wrong. I mean, when it's true, it's true. Yeah, this is not true, simply. So, and it's clear this word is used on purpose, just to immediately put a certain blame on me. Not very correct, I would say, professor. I mean, doing it, but okay, that's fine. I don't mind, doesn't matter. It's not the point. The point is that there are a lot of manipulations and mistakes again in this new text. So a lengthy response video and comments in which he made numerous criticisms. Correct. It seems unlikely that we'll convince each other, but here I clarify a few of the points of disagreement. Well, I'm not there to convince you. I mean, I'm there to search for truth. And if you made mistakes, and I'm proving that you made mistakes, and you're not, Mr. Rosenthal, you're not answering quite many things which I ask, in my video and in my comments. So, okay, we are searching for truth if we are unbiased, yeah? So I'm not convincing you. I mean, I just want together with you to find the truth. I mean, you don't seem to be extremely interested in it because you never contacted me and you never responded me. Yes, so, okay, that is quite a big, I would say this is a miswording, yeah? It's not about convincing anyone. So, but okay. One issue is a simple misunderstanding. He objects that my feats of average score versus rating, it was about the color, white or black. Actually, it is again manipulation. I'm sorry to tell it because that was not really my objections. I mean, I just said it in the meantime that it was a bit strange to separate games to white and black, but I also mentioned immediately that it's not an important point. I mean, it's just something which I find strange to do it. But then, professor, and this is really not important, and I mentioned it very clearly that it was not really a matter, just like on the way, I mentioned it. And then he makes the first clarification is this, and then explaining that actually everything was alright. Maybe, I mean, I didn't object to it at all. I mean, I just found it strange. So that is already very strange. This is absolutely insignificant matter. And then when he comes to significant matters, then the answers becomes very strange and vague. Okay, that's I wouldn't contest. Maybe. I mean, it was not an issue at all for me. So let's go to the next one. Now, yes. So here. So there is no issue here, no problem. There was no issue there. More substantially, the response vigorously objects to my combining games at different time controls when investigating streaks. Of course, I already mentioned that it's absolutely, wrong to combine different time controls together because the probabilities of draw winnings are different in different time controls, obviously, like bullet and rapid, very different probabilities, but there are also even different ratings in bullet, in blitz, and in rapid. There separate ratings, so which even this already clearly indicates that you cannot do it. You simply cannot. It's a totally different chess. Yeah, so combining it is completely wrong. It's very obvious to anyone. Professor doesn't refer to it and doesn't explain why did he combine all those time controls together. I understand why, but okay, I will not mention because it just makes it. Everything what was done, and I can prove it. Everything was done in favor of those streaks being as more likely as possible to manage. Yeah, that is very clear. But even with it, I will prove now you again that it's extremely unlikely. Even with this very, I would say, strange methods and parameters. But obviously you cannot combine time controls. That is very clear, I think, to anyone who has a bit of understanding of this subject. So as mentioned, I did also try separating here out the time controls, the games by time control, which did not show any greater evidence of unlikely streaks. No, it does, but okay, I will contest it, but let's go further. For example, if we restrict solely to games with 3-0 time control, well, yeah, that's what I was doing very often. Hikaru's most common time, 35,500 games, including the entire controversial 46 game streak. Yeah, of course. Then the list of notable streaks becomes the following. And here, this is a really I mean, you can. This is really embarrassing, I would say. So, Professor mentioned only seven streaks, which are notable according to his parameters: length 30 plus, probability 1 to 500. Again, you should listen to my previous video where I explained that the way he calculates probability, because he sets totally wrong parameters, because he takes FIDE ELO rating formula and uses Chess.com rating, which is based on Glico formula. So this is completely wrong, and he's not addressing this issue. This was one of my major issues, which I said that this cannot be done. You can never get to any correct result when you are using two different systems. Yeah, I mean, you're taking games from one system and ratings. So Chess.com, why it happened, I can explain again, because the difference is, Chess.com difference of ratings is higher usually than FIDE ratings, and therefore, but let's say the ratings which you get on Glico or FIDE or ELO system, they're the result of the formula. So you cannot take, if you already use Chess.com rating, you have to use Glico system formulas, or if you are using ELO ratings, then you have to use ELO formula. Yeah, I mean ELO system. It's very obvious. So the professor simply avoids explaining us why it was mixed. I mean, he actually gives a certain reason, which is, I'm sorry, which is just kind of funny. But anyways, so then he's calculating the notable streak. So according to the professor, the notable streak, he decided without a slightest explanation and reason to take only 30 plus games in a row streaks, and with the probability calculated, check my previous video, in just completely randomly and actually taking wrong parameters. So for some reason probability 1 to 500, which is, as I understand, it's extremely low probability. Actually, in a long sequence of games like 50, or even here you see 61, to have a probability of the performance 1% out of 100, so is already extremely low. I mean, when we are talking about long sequence of games. So even common sense tells that this barrier is way too high. I mean, to me, any long streak with a probability of 1 to 100, let's say 1% probability, is already, very notable. It's just common sense. But again, so professor tells later that, of course, I will come to it, that, you have to set certain parameters. I agree, but those parameters which you set have to correspond to, at minimum, common sense. And I will explain why these parameters, 30 plus games at least, and probability like this it's just wrong. It doesn't correspond to common sense and to the experience. I mean, so once you see, a serious research should have been done in such way that before setting those totally random parameters out of the blue, so to say, maybe what would make sense at least to consult a professional, or to make a statistical research, let's say, of all OTB games, let's say, of top players played in, let's say, last 10 years, and then see what were how many, let's say, how many streaks of such lengths, like 40, 50 games, with a probability of 1% were achieved. And I can tell you, almost none. So even 1 out of 100 is extremely rare, maybe actually never even happens OTB. I don't know, but you will see. I will give you some numbers soon, so you will see it. So this is the parameter which exclude a lot of, a priori, excluding a lot of very unlikely mathematically and common sense wise streaks of Hikaru. Very interesting why it is done, why it was set to 1 to 500. I will explain. For example, now the professor tells that finally, if you are taking only 3-0 time control, then there were only 7 notable streaks. This is really, I mean, I have no words to comment on it. And he's mentioning it, actually 2 in 2023, nothing 2024. Okay, let's now go to the real, let's say, statistics, which is, let's start here. First of all, about 30 plus lens games. I don't know, to me, why 30? Why is this number? I mean, I understand, of course, 5, even 10 games is far too little. But I was checking, for example, 25 game streaks. I mean, which is quite a lot already, yeah? And you can see, for example, here, it's online on chess.com, the probability, I mean, even 25 game streaks, longest wins, 25 win streaks. Carlsen, Firouzja, Niemann, Jospin, 0. They didn't have a single one in altogether, well, you know, like 3,000 games. Hikaru, by the way, in 2,000 something games has 17. So even this simply shows that, well, it's very, very difficult to make 25 games win streak, even if, okay, let's say Hikaru has much weaker in general average rating of opposition, but still, let's say if you take Magnus Carlsen and Martinez, Jospin all together, I mean, yeah, it's comparable, and the amount of games, it's more or less the same, close to 2,000, a little more than 2,000, I mean, together, Magnus and Jospin and Hikaru. So, and for some reason, yes, they had a bit stronger opposition, but still, Hikaru makes 17 streaks like this. In my team calculation, 0.1% probability approximately of this to happen. And they couldn't make a single one. So it's already what I mean, that it already clearly shows that 30 is far too high, and there was not the slightest explanation given by professor why he put this very high barrier of minimum 30 plus games. This is first. And then this probability was calculating, I mean, actually the reality completely refutes this number. It is just refuted by the facts. And that's why, I mean, as a serious researcher, when you see that you are setting certain, as he explains later, well, actually random parameters just out of your head, and then when you see that reality refuses it, probably you should adjust the parameters and not to ignore actually the facts. So the fact is that, for example, for instance, you see so you see here in this research it's mentioned, yeah, there are 7 streaks, and every other streak is actually not notable. So it's kind of nothing very special. Okay, let's go to the numbers. Those are only the streaks in the first 3 months only of 2024, which was de facto performed by Hikaru. Let's see how unnotable those streaks are, and they are according to this research. For example, yeah, well, those are the streaks. The performances according to chess.com rating is all 3509 plus. What means plus? It means that you cannot calculate out a perfect performance 100%. So I was calculating same performance, let's say here 36.5 out of 37, which is not, in reality it was 37, just to be able to calculate a certain performance. So plus, it means in reality it's higher than this, but even this is already extremely high. I decided to calculate, okay, you really, can anyone sane and with a certain understanding of chess, of how it works with ratings, believe that the performance 3559 chess.com rating, which is like in real plus, so in reality probably around 36 if you count, yeah, how it was. Yeah, this is again half point, this is 33.5 out of 34 would have been 3559, and that this is not extraordinary performance, which is not notable. I just for two of those, only two of those performances, because well, it takes a lot of time, but that is already clear, will be clear for you to understand that this is all totally wrong parameters. If a performance, I calculated every single opponent, I took the actual rating on this time of Hikaru and of his opponents, and finally this, for example, streak performed 34 out of 34 was 3028 plus FIDE Blitz rating. This one, 37 out of 37, was 3034 plus. This is a completely insane in reality. I mean, I don't know if it was ever achieved. I mean, in this length, 37 games in a row, for sure never. But let's say even taking 20 games in a row, I doubt it was ever achieved. So it's probably, I mean, in 34, 37 games, it is was never ever achieved in history of OTB play. And I just explain you. I just found Carlsen last two Blitz World Championship performance. Both World Championships he won with a good margin. I mean, very convincingly, but still his performance of the one he won in 2022 was 2904. And this one this year, I mean the last one, 2861. He won both of those again, of those events. The difference, and you see, and the performance of Hikaru, which is more than 100 or even 150 ELO FIDE points more, which is a huge margin. I mean, like, it's a different level. Then best of Carlsen is not notable according to the formula of, so it's nothing unusual according to the professor. I mean, this is a complete joke. Yeah, you understand that simply it only can mean that this formula is completely wrong. Because, of course, I mean, Magnus never achieved, and it's very obvious that at least Magnus is at least not worse than Hikaru. Well, in reality, obviously a better player by all ratings and achievements and so on, which was, by the way, proved again and again now recently in Paris. And you know, he doesn't achieve he doesn't even get close to this performance in events where he plays well and he wins. You know, come on. I mean, I'm sorry, professor, you have to, your parameters should correspond, if you're unbiased, should correspond to the basic common sense, or at least you have to maybe consult somebody who understands something in chess, and he will tell you that these performances are extremely rare, extremely unusual. Probably all of those, at least for sure, everything above 3.5, the rating which was never achieved yet, you know, in the history of chess.com, not even close. I think Hikaru once got to 3,400 for a day or two, but in general, Magnus and so on, I mean, the around 3,250, 3,300 at best. This is like 200-300 points higher performance in a long sequence of games. Yeah, let's say FIDE ratings, I think nobody is above 2,900. Here you have performances of 3,030, which is, I don't know, it's just, man, it's clearly extremely rare performance. And if for you it's not notable, it's the problem is with your formula, the problem is with your parameters, and this is very obvious. I'm sorry, it's so obvious that I can hardly frankly believe that this was done just by mistake. So and now I just, especially after the first report was published, I made this Hikaru streak performances only this year. I mean, kind of, for me, perfectly clearly notable performance, considering these 30 games streaks. I mean, there were two with 29 games, so I just added it, but whatever, even if you dismiss it, there were 25. And none of it was considered in this research as notable. I just calculated the average rating. So I did it completely in accordance with the research, with the same parameters. I mean, average rating 2905 42 wins, 1 draw. I can tell you my average rating on chess.com is around 2950. So it's somebody a bit weaker than me. Let's say average of the opponent is, well, a bit weaker than me, but completely comparable to me. 42 wins, 1 draw in a row against a player of more or less my caliber. This is normal, yeah, something very standard. I mean, come on, this is a joke. It is, I mean, I'm sure he will never manage it playing me. Never, nothing even close. Of course he will beat me, but I mean, this is just absurd. This will never happen. And or some other people from 28, 29, yeah, okay, this is pretty much lower, but still 52 wins in a row. 28, 29 is normally it's something like against a position of 2400 FIDE, 2500 FIDE, something in bit normally, yeah, something like that. To win 52 games in a row against such players, it is usual? No, it is even common sense, and my chess experience tells that it's, well, almost impossible, close to impossible, you know, and so on and so on. So all those tricks, none of these tricks were inside this calculation. I mean, this is just obvious. Yeah, you don't need a mathematician even, you don't need you know, some big name to in chess, I mean, or in mathematics to understand that this is completely wrong. Those tricks are very unusual, very unlikely, and those have to be included in those parameters. This is completely obvious. Yeah, I mean, this is a clear proof that such a streak with a performance like that, you know, like 334 is cannot be ignored simply, and it was ignored, and many other streaks like this were ignored because of these parameters taken completely randomly. For some reason those parameters were dismissing all those streaks which are clearly had to be in. Okay, that is the most important point, that which actually completely devaluates the whole research simply by even experience and common sense. Yeah. Okay, then what else? Then also very interesting. So he takes this 7. Okay, let's take this 7. Of course, it's, as I mentioned, completely wrong, but even if it's this 7, so comparing to this with the previous table, we see that several of previous streaks remain, including the least likely one and so on. Okay, and the most controversial one, however, second likely one disappears, maybe, but okay, it's just a wrong, completely wrong parameter. So in any case, even if taking this fresh Monte Carlo simulation of 100 random results, 100 I mentioned already is way too low. You can never, any professional can never make less than 1000. This is a real minimum. You cannot simply. So I don't know why professor, such a name in statistics. I mean, I've checked it with many different professionals. Everybody told me the same. Normally 1,000 simulation is like complete minimum. So why he is violating a very basic rule of statistical research, I don't know, but okay, I would like to receive an answer from him, very concrete answer of this, but well, he will not give it, of course, but anyways, that is a fact. It's not my opinion, it is a fact that 100 simulations is far too low. It's simply unacceptable for a serious statistical research. If this is not a fact, please, professor, answer me exactly and prove me that it's not. Okay, then 29 have a streak which is less like, so now he is explaining that, I mean, 29% have less streak which is less likely than 1 to 11,000, lowest probability achieved by Hikaru. Okay, whatever. So Hikaru notable restricted are still not at all unlikely over his full history. No, it's not. Please, I mean, we are talking mathematics. Professor, please publish numbers, not all this unlikely, more unlikely, still probable numbers, please. We are talking serious mathematics. So what had to be done? I mean, very basic. You take all those 7 notable streaks and you make a simulation of all of this happening together, because it happened. I'm not even again mentioning there were many more unlikely streaks, but even if you try to get to set your parameters, yeah, which are very favorable for your answer, but at least take the 7 and together and calculate the probability of it to happen. I mean, and give us the number, please. I calculated the number, it was very low. Even like this, it was very low. But he's still refusing to give to make what he had to make from the beginning, is just calculating the probability of all those happening. Yeah. So he gives all kind of very vague numbers. Relate the above fit the expected score. Yeah. Related to this, the above fits to the expected score and draw probability to average game data were also done. Yeah, another very important point, average game data. According to the report, they received from Chess.com a game data from several players. And any serious research paper should always give the source, what players, what data. I asked very clearly in my criticism, so to say, please provide me who was the players, why they were chosen, why only few, I think there were 7, why so little, why not provided, I mean, a lot of players, by what criterion they were chosen and who exactly was these players. I mean, because when you take the data only of 7 players, if let's say, I mean, this is wrong a priori when you're calculating, you know, like probabilities, because if only one of these players is, let's say, cheating, for example, then everything collapses because it's, you know, it changes completely the whole statistics. That's why you can never have only 7. You should have as many as possible strong players, and there are more than 7 strong players. Yeah. So, and in any case, there is zero reason to stubbornly avoid mentioning exactly who was the player, what is the data, because that's the only way we can reproduce this test. We can check these numbers. And this is done like, you know, immediately, like any serious paper, of course, in Amen gives exactly the data. So the one of the major standard of research is that as much as possible everyone can reproduce it on their own if they want. Here it's the data, I mean, the extremely important data is missing, and, you know, continues to be missing even in this answer, that you cannot reproduce this research. You just cannot, because I don't know who was the players, what games were taken, and so on and so on. So please, Professor, question number 2, again, don't avoid giving the information. This is a standard, a complete must in any research. This information is not secret. It cannot be secret. So you have to provide, please, the data. Who exactly, what data did you receive? Please. I mean, basic standard of a research. So again, it's not provided. Okay, so here we're combining the 7 data files of at all time controls. We have no idea what was the data files, what was the players of all time controls, a total of 293,000 games. Please, names, games, who exactly. If we restrict to just 30 games, yeah, in total 131,000 and half, or about 45% of them, so half, yeah, more or less. Then the fit of the score formula to average score becomes, okay, whatever it becomes, but again, here it is, sorry, I will just scroll it. Yeah, this is nearly as good a fit as before, with just slightly more excess at differences around plus 200. Well, all of the games, practically all which were played in these streaks, are plus 200. So it means it's very different, but still quite a good approximation. Sorry, I mean, again, this can work, Professor. I'm sure you know mathematics, and I cannot really explain why you are writing this, which goes, any mathematician knows very well. Even I know, because I was already experiencing last year a lot of such researches, that even a slight difference in probability overdraw can and most often lead to absolutely huge difference in overall result. And this is a fact. I mean, I'm sorry to whom you are writing it. I mean, there will be mathematicians, I hope, who would just read it. This is maybe for a person who has, well, little knowledge about mathematics, it would be convincing, but it's not true simply. It is a slight difference in probability of a draw, for example, in all of those tricks or something it leads to absolutely huge difference in the overall probability. And this is a fact, and I can prove it to you if you decide to talk to me. This is provable. This is a fact, simply. So why you're writing it? I mean, please answer me. This is obviously wrong. Obviously. Who is writing it? Maybe it's not you. Why you give your names and for it? Because I cannot believe a real mathematician can write this, because this is simply obviously wrong. Meanwhile, the fit for draw probabilities becomes, okay, then he writes the formula. It becomes, but then, okay, if it's different, even slightly different, please calculate then. This is a slightly worse fit of than before, since 3-0 games have a slightly higher draw rate. I mean, even like, a little bit, 1% higher draw rate changes all numbers completely, because there are a lot of streaks. Every single game, probability becomes different. So, and there were like, I don't know, in all those streaks, how many hundreds of games, it just changes everything. I'm sorry, please give me the number. Give us a number, finally, calculating with the correct finally probability, which you adjust here. So it could be adjusted very slightly, but this would make only very small changes to the probabilities. No, I mean, this is absolutely not the case. I'm sorry you call me arrogant or something, but this is a base. And I can guarantee everyone who is listening to this video that this is not true. It makes a very serious changes to the probabilities, which makes it absolutely necessary to redone complete, to do it totally again. And please give us the numbers. No numbers again. Very small changes. Please, number. I mean, just calculate it newly with these small changes and give us the final number. It's not there. Not nearly enough to affect the conclusions. No, it can affect dramatically the conclusions. Okay. The response also objects that it's not sufficient to examine just Hikaru's least likely streak. Of course, this is just, it's not me, it's like common sense. Of course, you cannot, let's say, check if the performances, you take the full period of 10 years. And, so you have to take all unlikely streaks, and there were much more than you mentioned, but at least those 7 or 10 which you mentioned, you have to take them all. Otherwise, you don't take the full period, you take the much shorter period. It's very, it's basic. So, of course, it has to be done. It's like complete must to consider them all together. So he's explaining that he looked, in this report, I did already look at other streaks to some extent. Sorry, you didn't. It's not, what do you mean? You took 2 out of 10, I think, which you published in the first report, and you say to some extent. No, you didn't do the work. There were only 2. You had to calculate out all 10 together because they were performed. Sorry, it's a joke, to some extent. By considering the total number of notable streaks. But this is, and also second least likely streaks. But why not third? Fourth, they're all notable according to your own definition, which is of course very, very modest, I would say. Very, strange. But why you take 2? Explain, just please explain why 2, why not? They're all unlikely, all notable, so take them all. Now, there are indeed many different ways to define which tricks are notable. I already mentioned, your definition is completely wrong because the practice simply refutes it very obviously, as I mentioned earlier. So it has to kind of fit with the reality. It doesn't, And some definition is required, otherwise even streaks of length of 1 would be included, which is absurd. Of course, some definition is required, but it has to be common sense. Yeah, it has to be at least a little bit in connection with reality. So if I'm is mentioning me, yeah, would be nice if he would at least contact me instead. Is able to propose a different, specific and precise definition of notable streak. I did already many times in my videos. I can also do, Mr. Professor, I can do it to you if you would, you know, find time and honor for me to answer me maybe once at least, yeah, not to actually just out of politeness or whatever, just to give me an answer. I can provide it to you, but and I already did in many of my videos. But please don't pretend that you know that I was not trying. You just don't want to have any direct communication with me. You are not ready. I'm ready to defend everything I'm saying here publicly, if you want privately, if you want publicly, in any way, because I know, I mean, I'm sure it is true, and I'm ready to stand. You know, I'm not hiding, writing some papers which you wouldn't see or Chess.com wouldn't see. No, I'm not hiding. You are hiding, I'm sorry, from a direct, honest conversation and answering my questions, which I posed in my first video and which I'm posing now. So please, the ball is on your side. Please, if you want me to propose different, specific and precise definition, I will do it. But please don't hide from it. However, less in the definition would lead to many more streaks, not just for Hikaru, but all players and Monte Carlo simulations too, yes. So they would probably not be any more suspicious. What is this? We are talking about, we are writing novel or we are having a mathematical research? What means would probably not be any more suspicious? They would, to start with, and secondly, check. It's your job. You decided to take a job. I mean, check and give numbers simply. I mean, what does it mean? They would probably not be any more suspicious. I would say they would probably be more suspicious. And what? I mean, I'm giving you numbers. I'm telling you that it's very unlikely. I mean, and you just say probably not. I mean, you agreed to make this research, so please do it. I mean, just do it and give us numbers. And instead of this probably, unlikely, maybe likely, less likely, numbers, please. We are talking about mathematics. You're a mathematician. What is this? I mean, it's just, that is actually suspicious, as you say, that you are avoiding to give any, I mean, information about data. You are avoiding to give numbers in most of these questions which are raised. Related, a later comment objects to my not considering third most likely streaks. I mean, not only third, many more. Implying that I did so intentionally. Yes, I believe so, because, I mean, it's my opinion. But I believe so, because it is so goes against common sense to mention 10 notable streaks, sort of unlikely, and then not to check them all together. Just to check one and then two and then to stop at this moment. I mean, this is just goes against actually basis of researches and common sense. That's why, I mean, since Professor is a well-known mathematician, it's hard for me to believe that it was not done intentionally. And the way to prove that this was unintentionally is just to do it now, just to do it again and to check them all together like it had to be done from the beginning. If this will not be done, I'm sorry, I will keep my opinion, because because it's just common sense. So I did so intentionally to avoid the danger of finding suspicious behavior. Yes, I think so. Okay, I'm sorry to think so, but I have all reasons. This is completely false. Prove it, please, Mr. Professor, and do it and give us numbers. The reason I stop after the second most unlikely streak is that from above table, Hikaru's third least likely streaks are less surprising. I already managed it. Even 11th already, which was not in this table, is, as you saw it before, is like best ever OTB performance streak. So, and this is, if you find it less surprising, not very surprising, I mean, I'm sorry, it means whether you just have no understanding of chess, of knowledge of chess, or or you don't want to find it less surprising. I find, I'm sorry, but I find some performance which Magnus can never achieve, let's say, in the many years, 100 elo points higher than Carlsen winning world championship, Blitz world championship, is, I find it surprising. Maybe it will be for you very strange, but maybe I understand chess a bit, and I know that to overperform best of Magnus 100 points more is a bit, let's say, notable. It's maybe notable, yeah. Don't you? I mean, okay. This is just really, embarrassing. I would say, even to talk about it. 3,000 plus FIDE rating performance, 3,600 chess.com performance in a long sequence of game is not notable, is not unusual. Come on, whom are you addressing to? This is all really, I just, no words and no comments. So in closing, I seek only the truth. Yeah, okay, please do it better then. And I'm not at all averse to statistically identifying suspicious behavior when possible. Okay, and so I would be very happy to uncover suspicious chess behavior if I could. You could try at least. You didn't try. I'm sorry. You tried the opposite. You tried to find, that is my statement, and I'm going to defend it in a direct, open, public conversation with you live, that simply you did it completely wrong. I'm going to, and we will see, the public will watch it. You are the master, you are the specialist. I'm nobody, I'm arrogant, ignorant player, but you will see. Let us see in our direct conversation, will you be able to answer directly questions, on camera, and how convincing will be your answers. I'm ready to answer any questions, even with you, who is definitely, much more qualified in mathematics. But I'm sorry, I am a little bit more qualified than you, professor, in chess. And I know that 3,000 plus performance FIDE rating is notable. This I know, and you will not convince me everybody knows it. So, and if according to your formula it's not notable, the problem is with the formula. I'm sorry. However, I do not see any evidence of suspicious behavior in Hikaru Online chess tricks. Of course, if you take wrong formula, if you set extremely high barrier and then check only 2 streaks together instead of 10 together, maybe you will not find. But if you do it correctly, unbiasedly, and really searching for truth, the result might be different. So please, those words, I seek only for truth, please, you have to prove it. And please just give us numbers. Stop this unlikely, more likely, searching for truth. The probability of draw is slightly different. Numbers. We are talking mathematics, professor. You know it probably better than me that this language is not serious for any mathematical research paper. So please adjust. I'm ready to talk to you privately, to give you all information. I'm ready also to stand on what I'm saying openly. I'm not hiding, I'm not afraid, because I know that, those things are very basic. I spoke with more than one mathematician, even those who are not part of my team, and they approve. Of course, it is true. Of course, this report is extremely weak, to put it mildly. So please, the ball is on your side. I'm ready, I'm there to search for truth. If you really want it, you know how to find me. Thank you. And now, just before publishing my video, which I've recorded, I would like a small postscriptum to make, especially for Professor Rosenthal, since he was telling that that he would like me to provide it in written form, all my suggestions. I tried to do it, didn't get any answer, any attempt to connect with me, as I mentioned already. So I will do it now. This is especially for the professor, in written form as well, and I'll comment a little bit. So just partly most important, I would say, critics of this research here one by one. First, share the data, please, and precise parameter. Why those particular 7 players were chosen by Chess.com and who exactly? Because in this report it says that for the major data to work with, Chess.com provided the professor data of 7 players. Why only 7 and why not 8 or 6? It's hard to understand, but it's already a bit strange because more players better it is, and there are more than 7 strong players definitely existing. But in any case, to avoid cherry picking, something which Chess.com was trying falsely to accuse me of, which is not true, because I always was given in any statistical kind of message I was given on Twitter or on YouTube, I'm always giving very clear explanation what are the parameters. Here, there must be a very, very clear mathematical explanation by what parameters those 7 players were chosen and why there are only 7 which fit these parameters. If it's not the case, if they are not able to give this explanation, then it's clear cherry picking, and it would mean that simply you cannot make any research based on such on such data. So that is completely obligatory to make it serious, and I would expect definitely this and share the names and the time, all the games which were played at this period of time. So that is one. Second, please respect the basic research standards, such as, for example, minimum number of Monte Carlo simulations, and, as I already mentioned, revealing the data used. It's obviously the only 100 Monte Carlo simulation is far too small amount. It's totally out of any basic research standard, and I think there must be definitely done much more, or at least, we need to understand, to be explained why so little, why only 100 Monte Carlo simulations, which is, clearly below any standard, and at least an explanation. But I would expect the professor to do it according to the, very basic and established standard, and some other things as well. 3, the fact that Chess.com didn't provide Professor Glico formulas doesn't mean that the researcher should use wrong for Chess.com ratings ELO formula. So it was very strange, the explanation of the professor, that simply they didn't provide me the correct formula, so I used ELO, which is definitely wrong for the Chess.com rating. Then don't use anything, or please ask them to provide you the correct formula, because otherwise it's impossible to have a correct result. So very strange, to put it mildly. And I continue here to write, the only legitimate path would be demanding them, Chess.com, to provide the correct formula of Glico, and remake the whole research using the correct Glico formulas. Of course, that is very obvious to me. I don't think it can be disputable, and but in his answer to me, the professor didn't express any wish to do it in a normal way. To adjust, to actually redo the whole research, because it was done with a formula which is not corresponding to the rating system used for the research. Then number 4, time controls must be separated. It's not an option, it's very obvious to any chess player that the time controls must be separated, and streaks examined separately, each time control. Again, as I already mentioned, at least because there are different ratings for each time control: bullet, blitz, and rapid. So you cannot mix it. That is, again, maybe not a fault, so to say, of professor who probably doesn't know that much about chess, but definitely Chess.com should have informed him about it, which they didn't do for some reason. We can only guess for what reasons, but anyways, this mistake should be definitely corrected. And another thing, please calculate precise draw probability in each of the time control and share the calculation and the result in numbers. Again, because in this answer, the author of the research didn't share any real numbers. He just said that it was slightly less, like fitting slightly less, but okay, this is mathematical research, it's not serious. Everything must be proved with numbers. So if that was made, and that is what professor tells that he made it, so please write it in numbers exactly. 5. Please examine the probability of all notable streaks together happening according to the basic professional standards of such a research. Wow, I never expected that I would have to tell this to a professional, that it is such a complete basic thing, and I don't hard to understand why it was not made. So okay, it's like it's very obvious to anyone, even not being a professional mathematics, that you have to take all streaks together. If you already take the full period of time, then all notable streaks should be taken, yeah, not only one or two. There is absolutely no reasonable explanation why you select very small amount of such streaks and study only those. Such research, and please provide readers and me the exact number instead of likely or unlikely wording, because I mean, what is the exact probability of all notable streaks that done in the correct way of happening together, because it happened in this amount of time games? That is what finally has to be provided in number with calculations, not likely or unlikely. I mean, we are not in literature, we are in mathematics here. And 6, the most maybe important, the parameters for notable streaks must be changed. That's what I mentioned in this video already, because they don't match with reality. I mean, obviously, I proved it very clearly that the parameters are wrong. They are taken completely accidentally out of the head, I mean, of the professor. Maybe it was better to consult professional players like me, not Chess.com, maybe, if it was, because Chess.com is not unbiased in this situation, as we all understand, but an unbiased professional player who would immediately, of course, tell that this is simply wrong. And so they must be changed. So there are a lot of mistakes. To my understanding, and I made a certain simulation, the results would be completely different, completely. The probability would be extremely low, definitely below 1%, actually below 0.1% according to our calculations, if you do the test correctly. But anyway, I mean, if the professor, as he claims, he wants to find the truth, those are the suggestions of mine. I mean, they're very clear, very logical, and in my opinion, difficult to argue with. But in any case, again, as I mentioned already, if he wishes to do the correct research to find the truth, I'm always available to explain this and many other things, you know, to discuss it openly, publicly, privately. If you want, please, professor, contact me, and maybe if we have the same goal of finding the truth, I believe that I can be very helpful for this particular research, which unfortunately my clear conclusion has to be completely redone from the scratch.